Alright, hello. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I mostly just, it's just something I've had in the back of my mind for a while, even before I wasn't feeling the best mentally, and made, like, that previous video, and, like, took, like, a mini break for a couple of days to just play Scream Fortress, and my opinion on bias has been all over the place, but I still wanted to do this, because I felt like I felt kind of bad, obviously, for the people that I asked for like their opinions and everything on bias, and that like how I said I was gonna make a video and then I ended up like kind of not. So this is like kind of a bias video, but it's not gonna be about like a skin or gameplay or how I usually do it. This is also gonna be unlike the drama videos that I originally got about bias. Those are scripted. I did write scripts for those. This is going to be completely unscripted, but I am going to make it into a video. What I'm going to be doing for this is I am going to like actually read comments, just like criticism about bias, and just like kind of give my thoughts on it, and also just provide like my own criticism that I've had for a while. So hopefully I have like background footage. Hopefully I don't sound very bad. Hopefully I'm not too boring. There's not really much else I can think of. It just doing like a little intro. Also, um, I have some interesting ideas for videos outside of what you guys recommended me that aren't biased. So I'll probably have that like within like the next week or so. So yeah. All right. So just to kind of get into it, the way this video, hopefully the way I format it, is that it's going to be my community post where I ask for your guys' thoughts, opinions, and then from there, I'm gonna do stuff that I got from people on Twitter or on Discord privately, and then from there, I'm gonna provide like my own like criticism, ideas, stuff I've had in my mind about the game, mostly just because I think it's fun to put it out there. I think it's fun to think about hypotheticals about games that I like, especially like TF2, are really fun and enjoyable to think about. So, um, I'm going to show, hopefully, when I actually do it in editing, because I don't ever know about myself. Hopefully, I actually show the screenshots in editing, but I know that I am not going to show usernames because that's like a personal rule I have. All the usernames are hopefully going to be censored or not shown at all. But I mean, if you know who you are and you know who wrote the comment, then like, yeah. So, just to kind of get into it. Um, First one, um, they said, quote unquote, bias needs to fix the stun durations, the stun lock problem, the newbie servers problem, ragdolls, insane charge duration, bugs, rework maps slightly. And they said, for example, make the second proper escape on the second last floor of Box Factory. Fix hitboxes, just make the game more playable. More I played biased, more it seems balances. I guess I meant to say balance to me. It was cool to find ways on how to beat someone or just fight entities with with strats, etc. But it gets to the point eventually. Maybe I am just a whiny person, which might be true, but this is an overall complaint. Also, they need to fix a damage scale to all items and all entity M1s. So, just to kind of like start with what the first thing they said, fixing stun durations and stun lock problem. I think this has already been addressed. Like right before I kind of left the main server, they were posting about they were going to add on top of how you get stunned, you get anchored. They're going to make it so for a bit after you're unanchored, you have a different UI that's over your model. That basically means you can't be anchored when stunned. You can still take damage from something, but you won't be stunned in place. It's like its own separate effect that goes along with the like anchored text that shows up when you're stunned. So the stun lock problem is going to be addressed supposedly in the major update in like a week and a half. The newbie servers problem, It wasn't really elaborate. You didn't really elaborate on it, or just whoever the commenter is didn't really elaborate on it. But I'm assuming like they're just talking about just like new players not knowing what to do on some maps. I don't really know what to really say about that. It's kind of just like I don't know. They've tried to address it by like automatically marking things every like minute or so, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of just like the King Winner thing. Like they might have to just make like an entire separate tutorial for how to explain some things, but at the same time, it might just not. They probably won't do that, and it'll stay similar to current Decaying Winter, which is that it is literally just trial by fire. It's just if you gotta get it, you gotta understand it over time. You're gonna have to learn the hard way, and if you don't like it, then I guess the game isn't for you. At least that's how it seems to me. Ragdolls. Um, I don't really think there's a problem with ragdolls. I think ragdoll physics is really funny. Unless you're trying to complain about like Ashley's last shot always flinging and ragdolling, which I rarely see people actually use to get kills. I seem to be one of the very few people who understand that mechanic, although it is kind of unfair on some maps, especially not to diss my favorite map, Teapot Observatory, but that entire map is literally a kill zone. Besides in like two or three, like all of the major non-walkway areas, but a majority of the map are those like white stud textured walkways where you can just fall off basically anywhere. So yeah, I guess that's what they're complaining or talking about, but I'm not sure. Insane charge duration. Um, Again, I think I originally hated it in the second chance update, but like I've come around on like how the charge works. Besides some like missing, sometimes slowing you for like 30 seconds, which is way too long. Especially because sometimes charging, if you charge into an enemy, I feel like sometimes if either of your pings are off, you'll be colliding with them and it won't stun. But that I think that might just be a bug, or it's just like that's just like a Roblox ping issue more than anything. I think the charge duration is fine. Bugs, I mean, yeah, they gotta fix bugs. It's kind of like every Roblox game, and like they are working on the bugs because you know, I've been I reported a couple of them and they actually have fixed them. Rework maps slightly, and then they cited second proper escape on the last floor box factory. I feel like that's kind of like like I'm not too sure. He's referring or I don't know, I'm just saying he is a default. They are referring to the giant elevator that goes from the bottom to where the extract is. Um, I don't know if a really like a second elevator would really be fair because then that would be like impossible to defend if you're the entity because usually the entity has to be split or solely focus on one or two of the artifacts, and that means currently they have to defend the extract point usually from like two different sides, two different like directions. If you add at least this is assuming it would go to the top floor, as in where the the retrieval point is. That would mean they have to defend from possibly three different sides. It's two sides when they're already there, but that's three possible sides with one of them being confirmed because that's where they have to come from. The two others is like they have to pick from one or the other. But it would be a bit more fair on contractees against like I guess like cubed. So, no, I'm not really too sure about that. Fix hitboxes. I'm pretty sure the hitboxes are like a non-issue because that's just a Roblox issue. I think. I don't know. Just make the game more playable. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to say there. Fix a damage scale. I'm assuming it's referring to items and weapons doing different different damage values. Um, I've seen people say that like the shotgun RPGs, like how they do different damages, just it being inconsistent. But really, I have no clue how that works. Most of the time, especially I've noticed it with, you notice it with Cubed and Observer, but they have like weird health regen after getting like after taking damage or getting stunned. I have no clue how that works with like 200 plus hours. I don't understand how that even works. But I do know with all Entity M1s, that is actually a built-in feature called comboing, which is that if you land several attacks in a row, I'm not even sure it has to be M1s. It just has to be attacks. They deal your next attack will deal exponential more damage. I'm not sure like how the calculations are fully done, but at last I checked, the people on the fandom wiki did have it on the entity page, and it does a full function calculating combo damage and how it works. But it'll seem like it does a lot more damage most of the time, but really it's only your attacks from Entity M1s for a combo only deal I think like 5 or 10 more damage, but you're getting hit several times in a row, so it seems like it's a lot more damage. Sometimes it's not, but it does feel like it's a lot more damage when you're going up against Jeff because he has to stab you like 5 times to kill you, and he progressively will deal tons more damage, especially if he lands all of his attacks on someone in a row. He kills them, and then he immediately lands an attack on somebody else. Or this goes for all entities. When you hit several people at once with your M1, it'll do a lot of damage because it is adding several stacks of a combo at once. So if you land an M1 on 3 people and you land an M1 on all those same 3 people again, you will do bonkers damage. Which there probably should be like some sort of safeguard for that. But at the same time, I feel like if they were to add a safeguard for entity combo damage, it'd have to be for Cubed because I think he has the largest M1 hitboxes. The rest of them, it's like you shouldn't have had like 3 or 4 people in like Observer Slacker's M1 range at once. It's what are you guys doing? Okay, next one. Personally, I think Salt Factory music from Super Meat Boy would fit the box factory. Not saying they should take it and put it in, but but like a music like it. Um, Literally just because of this comment, I looked at the Super Meat Boy soundtrack and I like skimmed through the song. I feel like it's a little like too action packed for a map ambience song. But damn, I did not know the Super Meat Boy soundtrack goes so hard. I did not know. I did not know. I did not know it was that good. Alright, next one. A cool map would be the Roblox HQ being abandoned and left to dust. Another map could be work at a pizza place, or maybe a map that is referencing an old obby. Um, I think Roblox HQ would be being abandoned would be like kind of cool, but again, you'd have to make it really unique, I guess. Although theoretically, if we're going off of like the base Roblox HQ that's used everywhere and the amount of height that's in it, that sounds like it would be absolute hell to fight against tokens and ashleys because they kind of just like fling you off at like basically everywhere, or just can't like camp a ladder, one of the ladders or staircases. But if you stylize it and like make it your own, then it'll probably be really cool. For work at a pizza place, I don't really know how you'd make that interesting without making it seem like it's like the Forsaken version of work at a pizza place, or like I don't know, if just having it be like a normal map, because I'm all for more interesting maps in the game and not just maps where you run from point A to point B and like you just kind of win. Isn't like point A being the artifact and point B being the retrieval point. And then he said maybe referencing an old obby. Um, well, I actually did see that they somehow developed. I got shown it that they developed some sort of like map generator where it's just like takes really really simple parts and makes like a really really simple point A to point B, like really weird line in the sky, and then if you fall off you lose like half your health and ragdoll and show it back at the beginning, and the entity spawns next to the artifact, which I actually think that would be pretty sick if that was made public, but I'm assuming it's going to be a VIP only thing or something only for admins. So, but I mean, I do think more maps would be cool. We supposedly are getting, we're getting the lobby, and then we're getting a map that we were at least getting a map. But I think we're getting. They said we were getting 3 or 2 in the update. Although I did personally like, I'm too lazy to build it because it would take forever, and I value my time way too much. Way too much. That's kind of a problem I have. But I did think it would be cool if there was like a disaster hotel map, which is that the only objective is the contractees start at the bottom, entity starts at the top, and they have to make their way to the top to grab the artifact and then go back down. But like every floor is like there's some sort of like moving obstacle or moving danger that could like blow them off the hotel or like deal damage or slow them down or something like that. I think that would be pretty fun. It would probably be like the hardest map. It would probably be like whatever um Winter Stronghold is or whatever Cube Factory is, like how many stars it has. It would probably have like 3 more than that because I think it would be fun. Technically on Cube Fact on oh my god. Technically on Box Factory, some of the hazards that are hazards that contractees can be used against hazards against the entity, but more often than not, it's easier to use something that's a map hazard as an entity against a contractee rather than the other way around. So I think it'd be really funny if they added a map that's actually just like, okay, the map is on no one's side. The entity can't use. There's nothing that helps the entity, and there's nothing that helps the contractee. There's stuff that can kind of go both ways, where like the entity can use it, and the contractees can use it to assist themselves or damage the other side. I think that would be really, really fun. But it's probably an absolute nightmare of balancing for all of the entities, all of the gameplay changing skins, all of the items, and just balancing in general. But it's just like a really fun idea I had. So I guess like sorry for the tangent about talking about my own map. Okay, gonna have to clear my throat because this is a really long one. So, they said, or I guess this person said, I've always I've always thinking something about adding a game modes to the game like Dive Def. I also came up with an idea for the game modes, and then they listed 4 game modes. So starting from the top, he said turn the table. In this game mode, the role for both entity and contractee are reversed. The entity must steal the artifact, and the contractees must defend it. The contractees will be armed from the start with random items, and they said they got this idea from someone whose name I won't mention because I don't want to spread usernames. I think it is actually like a cool idea because in a way there is well kind of like that, and like all bets are off in a way. The Ashley last man standing, but I do think that would be really cool. Although I can imagine it would be extremely funny to like watch Slacker pick up the teapot and hold it above his head like really high up as he does like a contractee like sprint to the retrieval point. But that actually does sound like really cool if they just make it so all the entities just function like a contractee in a way, which is that they just simply gain the ability to press E on the artifact and pick it up and like get slower sprinter speed with it or not be able to sprint depending on what it is. And the contractees have to stop them and like they drop the artifact when like they get stunned. Although in a way it sounds like you would have the problem of how do you like again obviously dealing with stunning and like stun locking. I think maybe maybe to make it balanced, they would have to make it so like stun locking is a thing, because most entities do have enough HP or an ability so they kind of can just brute force run with something. Like theoretically, if we're talking about theoretically, in theoretical standpoint, if it's cubed, or actually, yeah, if it's cubed, they have so much health, and they're running with the teapot. They get stunned, and like I was originally like when reading this, I thought like, oh, like contractees will function like entities where they can't pick up the artifact. Well, with cube, they would basically just be able to immediately pick up the artifact, push it a little bit further, and just keep doing that repeatedly, and eventually they would win. So I guess you would have to make it so either like contractees can also pick up the artifact and they have to like get it off of them to then retrieve it themselves. But it also made me think like, how would Ashley work then? Because Ashley kind of already does this, but he obviously can't retrieve it. He just has to run around with it. He doesn't have an objective. He is to stall the timer out or kill all the contractees to win in a normal match. So I feel like almost allowing him into this game mode would be like, that would literally be like, he would just be like the meta. Like if you get this game mode, you automatically have to equip Ashley, because all you have to do, throw your suitcase, grab the artifact, and then you could hightail out of there and instantly retrieve it and win. Because if you play Ashley well, you can keep them far away enough from you. You can basically have infinite sprint while carrying the artifact, so you kind of just win. And there's also the issue of Observer can teleport literally anywhere. So how would you balance them being able to hold the artifact? Because you definitely cannot make it so they can teleport with the artifact and then just make it so they just teleport the artifact, grab it, teleport on the extract, and they just instantly win. But it does sound like a cool idea. It would just need lots of workshopping. Next one they said is Imposter or Traitor mode. One of the contractees is a traitor and will help the entity by killing the other contractees, or by sabotaging their objective. Traitors have special equipment to sabotage, and if contractees kill the traitor, they'll be rewarded with money but for doing so. There would also be a special last man standing if the entity dies but the traitor is alive and there's one other contractee left. I think this is actually like a really cool idea, because I know they are getting rid of friendly fire in quote unquote competitive servers, which I think is really disappointing, albeit necessary. But I do feel like this would be like a fun alternate game mode, or a way to bring back friendly fire, because it would basically be like Trouble in Trader Town, but in an ASIM game, which I think would actually just be really fun. Although I don't know, you didn't really elaborate on what special equipment to sabotage meant, or what sabotaging meant in general, because I'm assuming it's different from like griefing, as in like grabbing the artifact and like throwing it off the map to send it back to where it started. But it does sound like a fun idea. Like, I actually do kind of like it. You'd obviously just have to make it so the entity can't kill the traitor and the vice versa, because then that would also kind of ruin the point of it. Next one is he literally just said, double trouble, you know what it is. I mean, technically this kind of already can exist, you just need an admin, or use private server commands. But I'm pretty sure to use said private server commands, you do have to be staff. Like, even if you're on a private server, you're not able to make people an entity, I think. Yeah, it requires staff permissions. But I'm assuming it's a part of one of the quality of life updates that they're going to make it so if you have VIP and you're in a VIP server, like private server, then you get access to all admin commands, I think. Because, I mean, that just seems like really, really basic thing to add that's somehow not already in the game. Because if you're a VIP and you're in a private server, you do have some commands. You can force a map when a round ends. So like when a round ends, you force a map. When the next round starts, it'll be that map, and you can make it like the bank from All Bets Are Off. But that's kind of all you can really do. You can also lace people, I think, and there's a couple other mini commands that you can do. You can also do no cooldowns, but that only works for Ashley, so that's yeah. Then the final one they added, Juggernaut. Entity HP will be buffed to 2,000, and contractees will all be equipped with shotguns and rockets. Entities are immune to being stunned, however. In order to have a fair match, every time the time decreases, there will be a wall or barrier slowly damaging them if they're outside the barrier. I'm not really sure how to feel about this because this kind of just sounds like the normal game already, but it sounds like it's more or less meant to be. Um, the objective is to kill the entity, and there's no artifact to get. It's just like it's like an elimination mission, which I think that's like a cool concept because the game already has like some decently intuitive items and just like tech you can use as like both as an entity and a contractee to fight each other, which makes it like like less like other ASIM games where the killer or the entity kind of just has to like they just have to kill you and then you just have to run, like you can't kill them, which I do like with BIAST in some cases, because other cases like the contractee can absolutely melt the entity, which it's not very fair. But I do think a game mode where the objective is to kill the entity would be fun. Although I'm assuming that the way they talk about a barrier, it's like Fortnite, where like the map slowly gets progressively smaller until one of the either side wins. But I think it's a cool idea. And then the rest of the comment is talking about um finding one of the secret ARG Easter egg things that they added that I haven't ever covered or touched. But I did see um as a part of the comment, they just simply asked or just said, I think that they said I think the devs should add it more. Maybe add a secret document mechanic shared around the map that reveals certain. I think they meant to say lore, but it's just two L's for the game, and these documents would later add on to reveal the censored bar to remove censored bars on the entity's lore. They can also document the game lore whenever it's about the RAC itself, maps, or other things. There's also should be a setting where we can view these docs ourselves after we collect them, kind of like Regretovator floppies. This also sounds like a cool idea, because I mean, a majority of the entity info, especially for like Ashley and Observer, it is like redacted stuff, and that stuff, most of that stuff is info that's either still unknown to the major community and only known to devs, or you have to go on the Discord server and search for messages to find out what the lore is. So I do think this would be like a really interesting way to integrate lore into the game. And I do think it would be cool to just hide stuff around the map. But that does also pose the issue of you don't want people purposefully going out of their way instead of doing the objective or dealing with the entity to just run around trying to find stuff. Which I would actually like to add on to this. I think it would be really cool. I don't know if it's coming in the update, because they obviously said that, or showed, not said, that there's going to be badges. That I do hope badges, they add badge skins, like skins that can only be earned from badges, because that's technically possible, because they made it so you can get the Kendrick Lamar Slacker skin for beating the Mustard Obby, or whatever it's called, Mango Obby, in a completely different game and getting a badge. So it's capable. They're capable. It's possible. But I think it would be cool if they added on to that, where if they were to add something like this, if you like 100% a document, or if you 100% get like all documents, you get like a skin or something. Like that would be cool. I always like that kind of stuff in not even single player, but multiplayer games, like searching for secrets and getting rewarded with something that that shows your effort for it. Because like one of the things I hate, especially in more recent games, the more recent you go in games, the less rewarded you get for 100%ing it. Because like I personally remember 100%ing Halo Infinite's campaign, which I actually did pay for. So I was a chump for doing that. But all you get for 100%ing, like specifically for getting everything in the game, you just get like a tiny charm on your gun, and that's kind of it. When I remember older games, you'd get like full skins and stuff like that. But overall, I do think these are like really good ideas. All right, that was a really long one, but next one. I wish more maps existed with unique stuff, like the NPCs that used to be in the game, and not just different maps with more artifacts. Stuff like that one mountain map I don't remember the name of. Something I wanted was proper implementation to features because I feel like a lot of them just got shoved in without fixing and debugging before release. And lastly, I kind of just want to mention something. Back when Teapot NPCs were a thing, I got mad some people took away my Ashley Last Man Standing. So I used the teapots to stall the round for an hour and a half because someone really didn't want to die for some reason, lol. Parentheses, yes, I am taking blame for the removal. And then they added in a reply, in case you're curious, Ashley can overflow his HP just like cheeseburgers. I had 6,900 HP. Needless to say, killing me was not an option. Okay. I guess I kind of already addressed the first one I thought like that they brought up, which is like more unique stuff. Especially with like my silly disaster hotel map idea. But again, like that is something that's just gonna come with time because they are adding I think they're adding again like new maps, new artifacts, new items, they're adding new everything in the update. And then they said proper implementation of features because they got shoved in instead of fixing or debugging. This is like pretty decently documented by not really just me, but also other people who worked on or worked for the game that may no longer work for the game or on the game. But I do remember hearing a lot that supposedly the Second Chance update was rushed, which was why there was tons of bugs. And it's funny enough that you, kind of in your comment you talk about abusing the teapot NPCs as Ashley, because I do remember, I don't remember what video it's on or where it was. I think it might have actually been on Twitter. But the person who made the teapot NPCs literally came to commented or replied to me, literally saying that the teapot NPCs were coded in like 2 days before the Second Chance update came out. So they were very, very rushed for the update. So they did little to no bug checking on it. At least that's what I remember being told. So that is kind of why teapots counted as NPCs. And then because they actually had health, unlike the bots and Bot Factory, you could kill them for money for money. Which was why I think it was like a week or a couple of days after the very, very first BIAST video I made, which was pretending to be an NPC, that they would end up getting removed. It was probably because of like what you said, like what this commenter said, where they stalled and they held an entire server hostage for an hour and a half because they obviously infinitely spawn. You can hit several of them at once. So, and you get HP on hits, so you could literally just never lose. So that's why they were removed. But again, I did see they are working on bringing them back, supposedly without that. And I do remember in that one video someone posted where they found a way to like get access by using Observer, like teleporting out of Tipo Inc., which is the water one, like the oil rig. You could like teleport out of the map, and there was a tiny base plate with like NPCs that weren't actually moving. You could just hit all of them at once to get tons of money. That they did show a teapot that looked like it was on fire, so maybe they're gonna add like unique NPCs as well. That are gonna be like if you melee this teapot, he's just gonna explode in front of you and act like a creeper. Because I think that would be pretty funny. But yeah, I think most of that is gonna be addressed. All right, I'm gonna try to rapid fire for the rest of these because besides one, the rest of these are considerably short. So, all right, next one. So, M1 should not slow you down, especially if it's cubed. The amount of times I've been charged into a cube slam for him to kill me because I can't run, because of getting slowed, ragdolled, and the getting slowed by M1s has happened a bit too often for it to be a coincidence. This could be the friendly fire's fault, but I DK. Um, don't really think charging has anything to deal with it, but I don't really think M1 should slow, like, I do think M1 should slow you down, especially for Cube, because Cube's whole thing is close quarters combat. If you didn't get slowed when you were fighting a Cube, saying, like, just for example, if like they grappled you to them, if you didn't get slowed by like their M1 as you get grappled to them, you'd instantly run away and you'd be out of range for their next attack. Same thing for like if they start by like you're in range of a slam, you slam, and like they're still in the anchored, they can't do anything else. Sometimes if you're close enough to them after their slam, they can land an M1 on you. If you get rid of slow, that won't be able to happen. Or just if you add slow, at most a cube to be able to get one hit on you before you're like already like out of there. Unless they grapple you back and then they get one hit on you. But I feel like that'd be too punishing for newer players. Although in a way it is also kind of strong for experienced players. But I don't feel like removing slow is quite the solution. Although I feel like maybe they should get rid of slow on hit for Slacker, because if he hits you while, like, obviously, because while if he hits you while you're sprinting, you're basically like he's basically like getting rid of like 20 of your, or like 15 or 10 of your stamina if you're sprinting and he hits you at the same time, because you basically stop in your tracks entirely while he is still able to move at like semi sprinting speed. So like if Slacker hits you with an M1 once while you're trying to run away, it's game over, because he doesn't have sprint. He just constantly moves at sprinting speed basically. So you do kind of just die as soon as you get hit by him once and slowed. You can't really get away unless you stun him, but you probably already end up using your charge and you don't have an item. So next one, shotguns. Shotgun should deal more less damage depending on how far your shot was. Passive should be reworked, especially for Slacker. Infinite stamina, but you lose for every hit. Have you seen a Slacker run out of stamina? Also, I feel like Ashley's gun shouldn't have the same hold for more range thing as Cubed Grapple has. Let's start with the first one. I don't know if you're saying it should deal more range farther away or like less range far away, but I'm assuming it's the second one because it's a shotgun. And because the weird jank way hitboxes work, unlike some other ASIMs where it's like if it detects that you get stunned, it'll cancel your attack input or make your attack not deal damage. BIAST doesn't have that, and it's extremely noticeable with Cubed, where if you charge into them, if they swing in advance or if they swing the moment you charge, they'll still hit you even though you literally stun them. So I feel like encouraging people to get really close to deal more damage would just make it so you're basically just trading health at that point, which I don't really think is the kind of thing you should be encouraging. Passive should be worked, especially for Slacker. And specifically a comment I see, but have you ever seen a Slacker run out of stamina? Is because yes, and that Slacker is me. I've run out of stamina as Slacker. Because if you aren't landing every single M1 and you end up wasting them and like people juke you out, you're kind of just standing there waiting for your stamina to regen. Or like if you're trying to use like the AI mimic and it basically ends up doing nothing, you do end up wasting stamina sometimes, but I wouldn't say it's not super common to where you run out entirely, but I feel like it happens more often than you think. But I feel like losing stamina for every hit would definitely not be the way you work around it, at least right in Slacker's current state. But you're also saying infinite stamina, so I'm not sure what you mean by infinite but lose every hit. Subtracting infinity is still infinity, but that's just how I read the comment. Because losing stamina every hit, Slacker is like the most defenseless entity, where he's currently the easiest to stun lock and easiest to kill. So I don't really feel like that would just make him even weaker. And then Ashley's gun shouldn't have the same hold for more range damage. Um, I feel like it's fair-ish, but I feel like maybe to balance that out, I guess I don't really think they should remove it, because sometimes how weird the hitbox is, you can't shoot someone if they're ragdoll on the floor, or you can't shoot someone even if it's like right above their head or like going through their head, like weird hitbox jank, because it has to collide with like their chest or whatever, the torso, Roblox torso, because that's where the majority of weird collision works with Roblox. I do feel like maybe like as kind of an idea I had, or not I have, but I have for a skin, which would be like a cube skin that kind of gives him a ranged attack that's not a grapple. That would be like, you don't get locked in place when you're powering it up for more range and damage, which I don't think either Cube or Ashley. Wait, no. Cube doesn't do more damage if you charge it up, I think, but Ashley does. Ashley also makes it so I think you take more knockback when you charge it up. But I do feel like maybe for Ashley, it's like the longer you have it charged up, or once you get it charged to a certain point, maybe you like sprint slower, or you just move slower in general while aiming. And it just instantly go away when you fire, because I do feel like it's a little strong. You can basically run around full speed, basically being able to aim anywhere fully charged with a pistol that'll fling people off the map. It's a little strong. All right. Someone just This one comment just said, "Do you think BIAST devs are actually taking the game seriously now?" I would have said yes when this was commented like a week ago, but like only a day or two ago, I don't know when this is coming out, but as a recording on the 22nd, they literally posted that Trapper's render is just like a meme image just saying drop Trapper, even though, and then Lemons himself said that it's meant to be a joke. So they originally said that they were taking the game seriously and were going to like obviously just focus on being more serious. But like now I'm not really too sure how to feel, because now like with that and a couple of other stuff I've seen, is like I'm not really sure if they actually are taking it seriously like they said or not. It seems like they keep switching their mind about that, but I'm not really too offended by like them taking either option. Devs should have put specific numbers on damage instead of high RNG damage. Yes, it might sound slightly creative, like the combo damage, but it is way too unbalanced. No way you thought it was a good idea to add an item that deals 250 more damage, aka the trip mine. For one, I don't think the unstable trip mine from the contractee trip mine does 250 damage to anyone besides Jeff, because I think I have been told otherwise by staff, but I'm pretty sure Jeff has like damage vulnerability where he just takes more damage from everything, or he takes full damage. Because again, with cubed and observer, you like slightly regenerate health over time after taking damage, so you kind of take less damage from stuff. But I don't really know how you're taking 250 damage from a single trip mine. And then someone in the reply said that a bomb dealt 175 more, when I'm pretty sure a bomb's default damage is 200 damage instead of 175. But I don't really have anything to say about this one, because I also already talked about combo damage as well in a different comment. Alright, last normal length one before I get to the final large YouTube reply I got. I'm just gonna do like the silly ones. I think there are way too many skins than actual killers. There are skins that change movesets like token and skins that add new gameplay mechanics, like that one Ashley skin that adds gambling, which I'm assuming they're talking about priceless, but you know. Though they are fun to play, as I think that some of that effort that's spent on making these skins could be instead spent on making new killers. Well, just the one way I have to reply to this is that they are making new killers. They are making Trapper, um, Adversary or Spirit, whichever name you want to call them. And then those are the two that we have confirmed right now. Trapper is going to drop in the major update in a week and a half. Adversary, they're teased him a little bit, but he's not coming out anytime soon. And then Lemon said there's 2 more entities coming after Adversary. So there's 4 upcoming ones, and one's about to release really soon. If you think about it, that means we have Slacker is 1, Observer is 2, Cubed Free, Ashley 4, then we would have Trapper as a 5th one, then we'd have Adversaries a 6, and we'd have a 7 and 8 is the upcoming one. So we would have 8 fully available normal entities. And then we also have Jeff, who's apparently getting reworked, so he might not actually be VIP anymore, but he's going to be different, so with Jeff, that's a 9. And then there's Crow, if you want to count that, which I'm not really sure if you really want to count Crow, because he's not even going to be, like, quote-unquote public after the update. He's going to be, you're not going to be able to see him if you don't have him. But if you count Crow, that's 10, which I think that's, like, already, like, with all the ASIMs I've seen on Roblox, especially compared to Forsaken, Pwned, and other games, most ASIM games, they just have 4 free. BIAST right now, it has the main normal 4, but then you have Jeff, who's 5. And we're about to get our 6th normal entity. So we already have like a decent amount. So I feel like gameplay changing skins or like entity variants or killer variants are like a cool idea. The Lemons did say that like he doesn't want to add any more besides the 4 upcoming ones. Obviously, that I said Trapper, Adversary, and the 2 mystery ones. He doesn't want to add more entities after that because then he feels like the game would be too bloated. There would be too many killers, too many entities. It would get just too much to handle because then they'd also have to make enough skins for all of them. It would just be too much trouble than what it's worth. Which I do think skin / entity variants that change gameplay are like a good way to work around that. And it also makes it so there's also like rules for what they can kind of change. Although at the same time, like Token does kind of slightly change Cubed a bit too much to some people, but I do feel like I don't feel like gameplay changing skins are a problem. I like them the way they are. Alright, and then very, very last one. This is a lot to read, so I'm definitely going to make some mistakes reading this. If I haven't, even though I've already made tons of mistakes reading all of these, because I'm special, I guess. I heard about the new update removing the friendly fire, and now only on Sweaty server. It is sad to see it go. It's like the biased charm that no other asymmetrical game on Roblox could ever give you. Obviously there is and will be a person that will ruin everyone fun via friendly fire. However, I got an idea and a solution to fix and maybe make bias more chaotic, because I like chaotic video game, mwahaha. Okay, this is a lot. A punish / reward system. It evolves around the reputation meter or karma meter, and I'm just going to call it RM. Basically the good and evil meter for contractees. And it works when a contractee is doing good things, like doing the objective, retrieving artifacts, and helping their teammates by giving them items or weapons. and these give them good RM. But something like charging into their teammate, attacking teammates via weapons and items, and/or team killing will give them bad RM. Within the RM meter, there's RM status like neutral, awful, hero, employee of all time, disgrace, hatralism, and most wanted. When the contractee got their RM so low, they will have the most wanted status, and every round that contractee becomes #1 on a target list for both the entities and the contractees. There will be an additional objective that isn't forced, but will pay out whichever collects the bounty. Or they say for contractee to kill that teammate with most wanted status, but I just simplified it. For killing every most wanted contractee, the contractees would get $35 to $75 in their payout. The most wanted contractee now has to survive from both the entity and their own teammates. They could still do their job, but if they really want to they would get paid really bad due to bad RM. Oh yeah, RM have an effect on payouts too. To be good, to be good guy and good payouts, bad guy and bad payouts. Anyway, this would become one versus the entire server manhunt that would turn the biased server nature to its absolute limit. If the most wanted somehow survived the entire server manhunt, they would get 3 times the surviving money. However, get the entire server humiliated by giving them no money. Get striked 3 times and their arm status will return back to hatralism. And no quit the server to join another server does not reset their RM. For the good RM are basically lawful. Upwards will not only give that contractee a better payout, but also better luck at vending machines, or hell, even better entity chances, with bad RM giving less entity chance. I'm not the best game designer, but I think this system would be a great fit or solution for biased team grafing. And then they added in reply, I meant if a most wanted or most wanted can kill other most wanted and just have a max cap, probably around 3 of them, and other contractees with bad RM would not be able to come to the most wanted, and the most wanted that came from the other servers joining would just be turned into hatralism, which I'm assuming they're saying is like the status right before most hated, even though I don't think hatralism is a word. Could work maybe for balancing without the game, or it's gonna soft lock themselves or something. Okay. For one, I do feel like this would be better off as like a game mode, and it kind of does sound similar to the one comment that was talking about like someone being like a traitor, but I don't feel like encouraging the entire server to target someone, even if they are like extremely toxic, is like a really good idea. But at the same time, it is kind of funny. But I'm not sure if I really like the idea of like Rainbow Six Siege or like Overwatch like social status or like social credits, because I do remember Overwatch having that, and I don't know. I just don't feel like that's like a 100% a good idea. But I do feel like it's at the very least that's like a fun and interesting idea for dealing with team killing and griefing, which does sound like almost in line with something they would add in a weird way. But I don't know. I'm kind of just speechless. I'm kind of just curious to see how other people respond to this idea. Alright, so now I'm just gonna go on to the silly ones. The silly ones where people did not take the post very seriously. First off, yes, please, Bias needs more videos on it. I literally just replied, do you realize what channel you're on? Next, Biased is falling off. Okay. It's not really criticism or feedback, just this kind of just saying that the game is bad. But okay. And then finally, for the final YouTube post that I got on, or I guess comment that I got on the YouTube post, just balancing, that's never happening, sorry. He has they have a fair point, I guess. Alright, so now just moving on to the next section, which is obviously going to be way shorter than the first one because I didn't get nearly as nicely of responses, and very few people actually sent me stuff on Twitter or on Discord. But, I obviously feel like I should bring it up mostly just to be nice. And obviously just put more ideas out there. But, they said, I really love BIAST, but for some reason there are some people that will just mindlessly hate on it, and it leads to the game having such bad publicity and people believing everyone that plays the game is a terrible person, even though it's not really like that at all. There's a lot of people that hate the gameplay too, but you gotta remember the game isn't finished, and some core mechanics just don't even exist yet. It's already a great game as is, so I feel most people that say this kind of stuff are the people who stand still and do nothing and sit while on TikTok. There's some people that also just don't like the game, which is fine, as long as you have an actual reason. Saying the devs are awful or the game is awful, if nothing else, doesn't really count. If you've got personal issues with it, though, that's valid. Last bit. BIAST is a very fun game that's experience is added onto if you play with friends. It's basically the Lethal Company 2, if that makes sense. And it deserves to have room to grow along with fair criticism of certain aspects of the game, and I'm excited to see the future of it. And then they also, later on, they said, team killing will be disabled in casual servers. And said that friendly fire is necessary. The game would not be playable without it, as it would become the new Murder Mystery 2, where people team with the killer and hold on to the artifact forever, and the game's over. You can report people if they are team killing. They were kind of partially responding to me, which is why that seemed like maybe a little I guess disjointed. But obviously the main thing even though it technically is more about the community than the game, I do have to agree with them at the first part, which is that, like, some people do genuinely not like the game because of personal reasons, which is that they just don't like it. They just kind of leave it to themselves. That's fine. Other people, they don't like the gameplay or they don't like something else that's in it. That's fine as well. But it's mostly just the stuff that me and them discussed, which was that there are genuinely just mostly it's primarily on Twitter, and that's kind of Twitter being Twitter. But there's like a decent amount of people who I see they don't have any actual criticism for BIAST. They just hate on it because of like presumably like Milko being on the staff team, which I did not bring up in the most recent drama video because it happened after that. But they made very racist comments towards there being like people of color in Forsaken, which was crazy. I actually saw that in real time happen as everyone clowned on them, rightfully so. But that that is basically the only kind of thing that I can like possibly point towards where people get this idea of like the BIAST staff are racist or they're all pedos or whatever, because I do actually see that thrown around. I actually also see people throw around a lot that the BIAST staff for the Germany and you know like the trying to find a way to word this without getting the video taken down by YouTube. But like hopefully you know what I mean. The painter guy, you know what I mean? I see people call the BIAST staff and everyone who played that guy, which with like nothing else to say. I'm just like, wow. It's like I don't know what's going through people's heads when they start saying that online, because they actually genuinely, what I've seen, most of those people, they don't actually have any criticism sides. They just call people that. So, and then they also bring up friendly fire, which was, I'm just gonna put this here and not mention it in my own mini section, but I actually am kind of curious to see how they do friendly fire. I originally did think them making casual servers have friendly fire and being in the server gives you less money when competitive doesn't have friendly fire was like bad idea. But now I just kind of feel like Maybe it should give you a little bit less money, but not as much. I think it's like it's a multiplier 0.75% or whatever. I don't know how it works. You basically are getting like 1/4 of your money taken away for playing on a casual server with friendly fire. But they did bring up like I that actually made me realize how are they going to do friendly fire or no friendly fire? Because you do run the issue like it happens in TF2 because there's not a way to stop it. Theoretically, if someone were to team or hold on to the artifact forever, the contractees would just never win because there's no way to get rid of them or stop the person from holding it forever. But the only way that you can kind of stop it is like how the teapot has like a Butterfingers effect where you auto drop after a certain amount of time, which means they would have to apply that to everything. Although at the same time, you can just immediately pick it back up after you drop it. And then they said like, oh, make it so friendly fire does still exist, but like both people that are a part of the friendly fire like instantly die as soon as it happens, which I feel like that's also not a good idea. So I actually am kind of curious to see how do they do no friendly fire in a capture the flag ASIM game. I mean, like, because only time will tell, I guess. All right, and then final, like I guess topic I got from someone privately in Discord DMs is that they said, to be honest, my principal thoughts is that they should stop focusing more. They said in, but I guess they meant on skins. Like, bro, an entire update dedicated to one fangirl. Um, I'm like kind of like mixed on like the whole update being dedicated to just fangirl. When I feel like it was kind of just because, obviously, the game itself has kind of been like I guess I want to say like a drought of updates, and it still technically is, because the only major updates that they've kind of ever hyped up fully were just the Second Chance update, and then obviously the BIAST Oween update, which is the update coming out in a week and a half. So I felt like they dedicated this entire large, like quote unquote, large update to one skin, just to kind of like show that like, hey, we're still working on the game, we're still adding cool stuff, which is why they gave them unique last man standing theme, unique animations, unique voice lines, unique mechanics. I feel like it's because they wanted to make it seem almost like, just to kind of like show to like people from the outside looking in that like they're still working on the game and still trying to add new stuff. Because from it before then, it just kind of was just like they were just adding like a normal skin every now and then with a couple of bug patches with no major update in sight until they announced the Biostoween update. Like, because now we know when the next major update is coming, and we know a good bit like what's coming in the update, which is a lot of stuff. But I mean, like, I feel like it's fair-ish that some people probably didn't really like that, because I actually did see that some people outside of this person didn't like the fangirl update simply because not that it was dedicated to one skin, but because said skin that the update was dedicated to was like an insert of a developer or an animator, or I guess a composer. They just didn't like that it was dedicated to an actual person and not like it being like, I guess it's like a random skin that someone made up, like many of the other skins that there are. So, but that kind of makes me wonder, like, would people have hated a dedicated update that's like, oh, like they completely remade like Dignity or something, like he gets new everything? Would people hate that more or less than Fangirl getting their own dedicated update? I'm gonna leave that up in the air because I'm not even sure how to feel about that. But that's kind of just a proposal. It's an idea. I'm just gonna leave that hanging. All right, so this is now just like the final section of the video. This is the final section. Mostly just my topics, what I want to talk about, and see how other people respond to. But just the most of the stuff that I've wanted to talk about, I kind of expressed supposedly earlier, or not even supposedly, probably earlier in the video when talking about other people's comments and stuff like that. Although the one thing I'm surprised I didn't see mentioned, or that anyone mentioned, was token balancing, because that seems like that's like a contentious thing that people seem pretty divided on, especially on the Discord server when I was in it, and also just between some other people who like to talk about the game. Token seems like an absolute nightmare of balancing, because I'm pretty sure the original buff was like, or not even buff, I meant nerf. The original nerf to token was, I think they halved how long token could charge for. But then that kind of made it to the point where their charge was kind of useless because it just didn't have, it wasn't worth using over normal cube slam. So they just said, okay, they reverted it. People didn't like it being reverted. So they then, I think, halved how much range her grapple slash, like, like her taser is what I think people like to refer it as, her taser move. They made it so that has halved range. And then I think they ended up reverting that as well, so they're just back to where they were again. I seem to be, I don't even know if it's like a majority. It seems like it's more 50-50, but I'm a part of the group that I feel like token is definitely a little bit more overpowered. And it's primarily just because when they combo people, basically all of their moves, obviously besides their normal M1, can ragdoll people or force people to go somewhere and like flying in a direction, which normal cube doesn't really have as much, or it doesn't happen as often with cubed. But it's also just the combo potential a token makes really annoying. For example, fighting a token on Teapot Observatory is absolute hell, because again, the entire map is a kill zone with 0 walls. So if you get hit by their charge, which flings you up into the air, you're probably going flying off the map. If you get paralyzed by them with the taser, then like, oh, that's kind of just whatever. But then, more likely, even with that, because of their charge duration, they could stun you from like a decent bit away, charge all the way over, and hit you with the slam, fling you, like you're going off the map. And then, if you manage to get hit by a token mine, which doesn't happen all that often, but it mostly will happen if a teammate accidentally sets it off, or they combo you with it, then you're going flying again. You're going flying off the map. Token is one of the entities, kind of like Ashley, where they're worse if there's nowhere, if they don't have like a kill zone near them to fling people off the map. Which especially, the thing I hate about Token, which is that they have a buff, so when they place their mines, it stuns people and does damage. So the like best way to play Token is the combo, like you taser someone within your charge range, even if it's decently far. You charge all the way over. They're still on the floor because you probably most definitely charged up your taser a bit, because if you charge it up, they'll ragdoll for a good like 3 or 4 seconds. So you're charging all the way over. You deal the slam, which your taser I think does like 10-15 damage for token. I don't remember. And then the slam does like 20 damage and flicks bleeding. So they go flying. If they don't go flying up over the map, they get ragdolled and flung. So you can swing once and get another like 20 damage and bleed in. Or you can take, if you're lucky enough, you can place a mine after that swing. But after that slam, you hit them with a mine. By placing it down, you do a bit of damage, ragdoll and stun them. Then by the time they get up, they automatically trigger the mine. So as soon as they get up, they get launched and flung again. And I think get bleeding again and take 15 more damage, and then while they're on the floor, you can hit them with an M1, and then if you save your stamina right, you can chase them till they die in like another second or another hit or two. I don't really feel like that's fair because at the very least, Cube doesn't have a charge. He has a slam that's AoE that he uses after a grapple, which maybe the slightest Cube nerf that he is supposedly getting reworked like way later down the line. But like at the very least, maybe right now, make it so there's like, for one, make it so there's like a small invisible cooldown after using the ability where you can't M1 that also goes for token maybe, and then like add like a again like a really small invisible cooldown for like after you use the grapple you can't instantly slam, so people have like the slightest chance to get away. Cause token again, I feel like they're really overpowered. Cubed, they're a little overpowered. I would say the same about Ashley, but actually Ashley has a lot more skill involved. The only thing I don't like about Ashley is that their parry window is way too large. Their animation where it's like his hand is by like his left hip, he still has a hitbox. It's like he's not even swinging his suitcase anymore, and he could still parry you. I also don't like he can also just sometimes parry you if he's not even looking at you. If you charge into his back, you'll magically bounce off of him. I kind of hate that. I don't know why is that a thing, but at the same time, if Ashley goes up against a decent team, he can get stun locked into oblivion, which stun locked is getting removed. So uh, that kind of nerfing pairing may not be needed when Stunlock gets adding. It's just kind of like a nightmare of balancing, which I'm not a game developer. I've played lots of games in my time. BIAST and Pound are like the only major ASIM games I've actually liked and put time into. I only have like an hour in Forsaken, and that was before all of the drama happened. But I'm pretty sure that's the only um, discussion I wanted to talk about with balancing anything like that. So, yeah. So, to kind of just close out this video, I just felt like doing this because, obviously, I said I didn't want to leave tons of people hanging when I asked for their thoughts and opinions on bias and like discussion balance wise and ideas. And it's mostly just I was like sitting on this idea and I wanted to do it even after all the stuff that happened with me within like the past few days, which I didn't really explain besides like privately with a couple of people, but it's literally just because just like my mental state goes up and down like a roller coaster all the time. And like on Sunday, it was just like I felt miserable because I was just sitting at home doing nothing. None of my friends were online, nothing to talk to, nothing to do. I felt like I was just like rotting away in my room. No one in the house was doing anything, you know. Hopefully, you know. And also just didn't help that like I still kind of believe that I guess this can kind of go into like as a part of the discussion or whatever. But like I feel like the bias community is extremely toxic, especially the Discord. I even see the owner of the bias fandom wiki saying like, why is the American bias community so toxic? Why are they so rude? And but at the same time, that's kind of an issue I see supposedly with like every Roblox community, which I think there's some sort of video that's probably out there that's like gives like a video essay that would explain just like why this is why it's a problem. But I don't know. It's just with all the community posts and stuff I said about Sunday, it's just like just now I just wasn't in a good state, and then some people said some stuff that made me feel even worse. So I just wasn't doing well. I've like kind of bounced back now although I'm still not sure how I want to feel about BIAST, especially because I'm pretty sure it's like, I don't even know if I want to say majority of the team, but I feel like it's like 50-50, half of the whole staff team, which is like goes from like moderators, like the moderation staff to the moderation team to the development team. I feel like it's like a good like half, I think, hate my guts because of the kind of stuff that I've talked about, the kind of stuff that I do, me being me, like stuff like that, which that's kind of, I think from now on, I'm going, besides just me saying this right here, right now, that I'm probably going to be a lot more private about it and just try to like, try to keep it to myself a lot more than I have been. Mostly just because I don't like stirring drama. I don't like having beef with people. That's usually not in my nature. But yeah, it's probably like a way too serious way to close out this video, and it was mostly about bias, and I start talking about myself. But it's just kind of all ties into itself, But hopefully you enjoyed this video. Just, again, it's another video of me talking. Hopefully I fixed the mic issue so I don't sound like a robot. And I guess let me know in the comments about like how you feel about anything I said, anything that other people said, or like any ideas you have yourself. Because maybe I'll do like a sequel to this at some point, like how I kind of said I would with the teapot avatar rating videos, which I did collect some avatars for that, but I still don't see that second avatar tier list coming anytime soon. But you know, um, I guess have a good night, good day, good evening, whatever time you see this. Yeah, bye.